GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere.
Hello everyone and welcome back into the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, and for our fourth segment of the day, why not look at some odds? We're wrapping up seasons here in both college football and the NFL. I know it certainly feels like it's not that time just yet, but this NFL season will be over before you even know it. So why not look at the updated NFL MVP odds, much like we did with the Heisman odds yesterday ahead of their conference championship weekend. And while we're a couple of weeks away from the conference championships of NFL season, this is a very interesting MVP race, right? Because we're giving a lot of players chances we never thought we would before, and a lot of positions chances we never would have expected. I would not have expected two running backs who are getting up there in age at a position that's not as highly coveted anymore in the NFL would be in this conversation. It just goes to show how bizarre the NFL can be year in, year out. And we're seeing historic performances by all these different guys, but at the end of the day, I feel like there are starting to be several players who are separating themselves from the pack. Without further ado, let's jump right into these updated NFL MVP odds. Now, mind you, they're not as updated as I would like. These were written, about a week ago now, so they could have changed over the last week of the NFL season. But without further ado, this is what I got for you. The wrong graphic here. Starting off with number 5, this guy, not necessarily having the best of seasons, but he's in this discussion because he is who he is, and everyone knows that he can go on a heater to end the season. It's Patrick Mahomes. Whether you like it or not, he's always going to be in the MVP conversation, whether or not he's having an up or down year. And I feel like out of all these candidates, right, he's the one who could sneak up on you at the end of the season and really start to make the case for himself. And I know it's going to be really weird to see him, if he is in that conversation, potentially move up the betting odds, the betting ladder here. But at the end of the day, it is Patrick Mahomes still. And the brand alone, no matter the style of play, can get him to that position as well. So even if, say, he plays quote-unquote league average for the rest of the season, it could be enough to get him in the conversation just because of who he is, and that's why he sits here at number 5 as well. I don't like it as much as you might not like it, but it is what it is, because sometimes there are players who transcend, bad seasons, and Patrick Mahomes is one of them, and very few players can say that about themselves. So that is where he sits currently. Maybe not currently because the events of this weekend, but that was where he stands right now. And it is what it is, like I said. But number 4, this is where we get into kind of more top-level candidates. And this guy certainly doesn't seem like a top-level candidate just because he had one stinker performance and hasn't necessarily gotten the name recognition of other guys in this conversation. But Jared Goff, we have to give this guy his flowers. He's the quarterback of the best team in the NFL. And even though he's kicked in the dirt after his LA Rams campaign, and he kind of felt like used goods, he's found new life here in Detroit. And I feel like, until he gets back to the big game and potentially wins it, he's not going to get the respect of someone who's in an MVP conversation. But his season alone is enough to say that he really truly belongs. And so I feel like even though it's going to be weird to see how the NFL treats him, he should be a no-brainer candidate still. I feel like his efficiency is something that not many quarterbacks have, and his ability to stay within rhythm in that offense is truly something special. And I feel like even though he's not going to pad stats, he's not going to put up the gaudiest of numbers like the guys at the top of this list, the fact that he's being this efficient for the best offense in the NFL, the best team in the NFL, can't go unnoticed and can't go underappreciated in terms of MVP discussion. So even though he sits at number 4, this is a guy who I very well would not be shocked or appalled at should he win a shocking, to some, MVP award down the stretch, just because of the fact, he now needs to gain that respect. Potentially, he may not even do it this year. The Lions might not even win the Super Bowl, as hard as it is to try and digest. But overall, Jared Goff deserves to be in MVP conversations from here until, this Detroit Lion team mires in mediocrity again, because he's that special for this team. And number 3, though, this is a special player, and I'm shocked to see him this low, because for all intents and purposes, he could win this award. But because he's a running back, it's going to be difficult for him. Saquon Barkley, this guy's doing otherworldly things at the position, but he is a running back. And he's kind of an aging one at that, who just went to another team, a new home, to get more money in a year in which this could be potentially the last year we see a quote-unquote high-end running back make a move like this. And so that's why I feel like, even though Saquon certainly looks and feels like the best player in the NFL, the most important, most valuable player, for that matter, in the NFL, because he's a running back, and because these two guys have been in this situation before, have had MVP hype surrounding them before, this is going to be a difficult award for him. He's going to have to really challenge Eric Dickerson's single-season record here to really make a case, in my opinion, because it's always going to be tough. Only 2 running backs have won the award in the past 2 decades, Shaun Alexander and Adrian Peterson, and they didn't even break records. So you really have to have a truly anomalous season at the running back position in order to be in the conversation. He's doing it right now at this current moment, and that's why he truly is firmly in the conversation. But in order to actually win it, yes, he's going to have to make history here. And it's going to be difficult down the stretch in terms of how the Eagles utilize him, especially if they've clinched a playoff spot by a certain point. But Saquon certainly should merit consideration as potential winner of this award. And finding him at 3 could be very surprising to some, just because a lot of people see him potentially as the number 1 guy for this award. But because of the running back position, that holds him back. And then at number 2, a guy who's all too familiar with being in this situation, but I don't necessarily should be in this spot just because of the fact his team has kind of slowed down a little bit. Lamar Jackson, I still think he deserves to be in this debate wholeheartedly. I still think he is doing incredible things with this, but 2 things slow him down. One, the fact that his team is not playing as well as it can, and because Derrick Henry as well complements him now in the backfield. And so, combined with all of this hype around the next guy on this list, and the fact that that guy is having a season like any he's ever had, Lamar is going to find it very difficult down the stretch to get back into this number 1 pick conversation. And so that's why, even though Saquon and this next guy could have cases against them, I feel like Lamar is not going to win this award. Just because I feel like this number 1 guy has something that Lamar doesn't this season. And the number 1 guy is, in fact, Josh Allen. And the one thing, funnily enough, that Josh Allen doesn't have this season is turnovers. That was always the problem with Josh Allen. He was a lot more fun than most of the candidates on this list to watch, and everybody loved him for it. But this season, the thing that separates him from all these other guys is turnovers. He limited that in an offense in which he kind of takes the back seat, which is the only way I can see him potentially being hindered in winning this award. But it allows him the freedom to make more decisive impacts on this team in terms of his play style. Because of the fact he's not always worried about hitting those deep balls. Because of the fact there's no real deep threat in this team. Because of the fact he has to play more within himself. It brings out the best in him. It limits the worst in him. And that's a combination for a guy who's already cemented himself as a superstar in this league to win his first MVP award. And even though a lot of people can make justifications for the guys behind him. Saquon, yes, if he makes history, he should definitely get this award. And we got to give Jared Goff his flowers finally. Josh Allen did what he needed to do this season to firmly entrench himself as the MVP of the National Football League. If you look at the team as well, compare this to Saquon a little bit, and Lamar, and even Jared Goff. Josh Allen is a very valuable player because I don't know where this Bills team would be without him. If you put, say, I don't know, a Mac Jones, a Trevor Lawrence, maybe even a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or Jaden Daniels with this Bills team, this Bills team might not even win 7 or 8 games. That's the point right here. Josh Allen has developed to this point to win this award. And that's something that not many people in this conversation can say. And he's doing it with less. And that's why I feel like this is a rightful place for Josh Allen to sit in the betting odds for the NFL MVP awards. But that'll just about do it for this segment. Coming up next, our final segment, previewing Sunday Night Football, massive one in the AFC West. Chargers, Chiefs, going a little bit more into depth on that one right after this short break.